Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we need to start making some character designs for Conquest. Birthright we've got pretty much down to a science, but our list for Conquest, significantly less interesting. Anyone got any ideas? Anyone? Okay, what if we made Captain Quark, but good at his job? That's dumb, but we're gonna roll with it. When Fire Emblem Fates and Awakening came out, its characters got absolutely dunked on by the fandom. I'm talking so bad they still get dunked on over 5 years later. The characters in these games were called bad because they were all just gimmicks who didn't have any real character. Just one joke that gets told over and over. And I find that criticism is rather overblown because, yes, there are definitely characters in these games that have the depth of a puddle. I don't think anyone will deny that. But if a character is just a gimmick, well, what if that gimmick is a good gimmick? What if the character's gimmick makes them likable and charming? That's how I feel about Arthur. So let's look into the lovable, luckless lad and see why I think he's a gimmick done right. Normally, I would start a character analysis by discussing a character's story relevance, but the thing with Fates is that if you're not a royal, you don't have any story relevance. In Conquest, Arthur just shows up and says, "I'm Lady Elise's retainer," and you go, "Cool," and then you slap him in your army, at least until you bench him for Camilla. In Birthright, Arthur just shows up and says, "I'm Lady Elise's retainer," and you go, "Cool," and then he leaves the story forever, which is the sanest reaction to being in Birthright I think I've ever seen. Then, in Revelation, Arthur just shows up and says, "Why are you playing Revelation?" And then you sit there for a moment before turning off your 3DS to go play a better game. So if I want to talk about Arthur, I have to dive into his supports from the word go. Not the first time we've had to do this, and it won't be the last time we have to do this. We'll start with his Corrin support, because it gives a very good outline of what you're about to witness with Arthur in his dozen or so supports. It starts with Arthur remarking that he just got back from a mission. He went out and single-handedly dispatched a group of bandits that were harassing a nearby town, because apparently that's just what he does with his free time. Corrin realizes he's covered in mud and grime, and worries he might have gotten seriously injured in battle, but he remarks that has nothing to do with the fighting, he just got ran over by 2 carriages on the way home. And then after that, he was mistaken for a thief and chased for about 10 miles. And he says all of this without a hint of disdain or concern for himself. He just shrugs off the misfortune and gets ready to do his next task. And Corrin is filled with respect for his outstanding character, and a bit of concern for his well-being. The rest of the support chain is basically more of that. Arthur tries to do some good deed, God hates him for no goddamn reason and things go wrong, and Arthur perseveres. That's his entire gimmick. You don't really get too much more from his supports other than that, but I think that gimmick works completely fine. For starters, while things always go wrong for him, how they go wrong for him continuously changes, and it remains consistently funny, which I'll try to go over in a bit. Second, at the core of his character is perseverance. It's very charming to see him never get angry or bitter at things going wrong. He's always quick with a smile and a second try. Third, Arthur's gimmick doesn't require him to change who he is, which I think Fate stumbles on with a few characters. Gimmicks like Felicia's ineptitude at being a maid or Perry's everything are about character flaws that should be improved on by the characters, but they never are. Arthur's bad luck isn't something he can fix, so seeing things go wrong doesn't invoke a feeling of, why doesn't he just get better? It invokes in the player a feeling of exactly what was invoked in Corrin, respect for his ability to persevere. And just because Arthur is a gimmicky character doesn't mean he isn't given a backstory, as delightfully simple as it may be. In his Azura support, Arthur recalls a story many years prior to the game where he found Azura on the streets of Nor when they were children. Azura was routinely abused and harassed by the Norian nobility, and she had to run into the streets to escape them, but they still always managed to find her. Arthur, though he had no idea who Azura was or what was going on, he was keen enough to realize she was in danger, so he lied to the men and said he was the one who took her from the palace. For this, he was beaten and whipped mercilessly, but Azura was spared from their wrath. Though I do find it funny, none of them asked how a child could have infiltrated the palace, but that's neither here nor there. The story shows us that Arthur has been a good man since he was a child, and the story even has nothing to do with his bad luck gimmick. It's just a nice display of heroism that makes him endearing. Azura then asks Arthur why. Why is he such a nice person in the face of a world that always seems like it fucking hates his guts? And Arthur's answer is simple. His parents said only the just can protect justice, and Arthur made it his mission to protect people who can't protect themselves. Now, you know me. I love complex backstories with intricacies and mysteries to them, but it's true to life to say not everyone has a complex reason to exist. Games, movies, comics, etc. all seem to think that a person needs a reason to be good, that they need some traumatic event, usually a dead wife, to fight for justice. But a lot of people are nice because being nice is the right thing to do. They don't need a complex reason to understand not being an asshole is cool. Arthur is how he is because he just is. And for a character with humility and heroism like him, that is a perfect reason. It's like, you don't need a reason to bring the grocery cart back after you use it. You just do that because it's a dick move not to. You don't need a reason to hold the door for someone behind you. It's an automatic reaction because it's a nice thing to do. And you don't need a reason to subscribe to the FEMS Patreon because doing so is just a morally upstanding thing to do. So come on, look at your wallet and make the right decision. That's right, I have a Patreon, where for as little as $3 a month, you can get access to benefits like early access to content from videos and getting shoutouts on videos. And if you want to pay the big bucks, you can pay $7 a month to get access to polls to decide the characters on future analysis videos. Right now, it's a battle between the Eelbian characters that just show up at the end of the game and have 37 pages worth of backstory. Carol has the early lead, but who knows, Reynolds could catch up. My patrons include the likes of Adebayo Thompson, Andrew Crockett, Benz Again, Dr. McBackstab, Elizabeth, loyal subject of His Royal Majesty King Garen, Fire Emblem Lord, Great Riek, Hell on Heelys, Despacito 2, Keithan, Lightning Bolt, Nevrix the Tourmaline Project creator, Shenlu, Steph D, Tato, the world's most unironic 8.5 tail stan, Walmart greeter, your girl Olwyn, Auntie Ginger, Brentendo11, Drew Hack, Goo Goo Gaga, Cornelia Milkers 92, Max the Knife, and Upscale Furry Trash. Thank you very much for your support, and let's get back to Arthur. Okay, let's see some of his gimmick in action. We'll start with his Nyx support, wherein her ability to see the future comes in handy, or at least she tries to make it come in handy. She foresees Arthur's bad luck screwing him over as it always does, and tries to stop him from chaperoning a magic show for children, but he doesn't heed her warnings. Seeing his determination, she gives him a spell book and tells him not to use it, but put it under his armor. A weird thing to do, but Arthur trusts her and does so. And at the magic show, the magician asks for a volunteer from the audience for that sword in a barrel trick. You know, the one where someone looks like they get stabbed by 30 swords, only to be completely unharmed, sometimes it's in a box. Well, the secret is in the sword. It's a trick sword that doesn't actually hurt the person. But when Arthur went up as a volunteer, an actual sword was used by mistake. Which, like, how does that even happen? Regardless, thanks to the spellbook, the stabbing didn't reach Arthur's body, leaving him very much alive for the next misfortune that Nyx foresees, which I think is best read aloud. The dinner began as planned. We took our seats without incident. I was asked for my preferred drink and said that water would be fine. My senses must remain undulled by drink if I am to properly perceive injustice. When the rest of the party's drinks arrived, someone proposed a toast, as you do. I was feeling particularly parched and threw back my glass in one gulp. Alas, it wasn't water but alcohol, yes? Yes, the waiter had mistakenly given me a glass of clear spirits. And I don't have the fortitude to guzzle a drink that strong in a single go. I quickly felt disoriented and confused. And that's when trouble struck. Exactly. This happened after the hors d'oeuvres and soup, but before breadsticks were served. Yes, go on. Not quite cognizant of my surroundings, I reached for some bread. I lifted it to my lips, took a bite, and what I was actually holding was Lady Elise's hair. I can see how you might confuse those long tails of hers for baguettes. I don't know what else to add other than that the mental image of a drunk Arthur trying to eat Elise's hair is really funny. That, and this support also has Arthur soldiering on with his duties despite knowing the future will go wrong. Again, showing that likable perseverance he has going for him. The last example I want to bring up is his Baruka support, because again, it's a funny circumstance. It deals with political assassination! Baruka is hired to off some government official, and said government official is aware his life is in danger and has hired Arthur to be his bodyguard. Arthur and Baruka are honestly comically blasé about this realization and agree to just sorta let the night of the assassination happen and hope for the best for their respective sides. However, just as Baruka is about to strike, a horse-drawn carriage bursts through the wall of the building they're in and runs over Arthur. And after that, the roof caves in on his head. Baruka then big-brains herself into running away, thinking that this must be the work of an unknown third party, because there's no way those kind of things just happen to people. The idea that Arthur's luck is so bad that a rational thinker thinks it can't be real is funny to me, and this support is a goofy and charming scenario using his bad luck in another fun way. Well, I think you get the picture of his supports by now. A lot of them follow that same mold and end with pretty comical results normally. I do want to say his bad luck gimmick also translates into his unit quality. There's the obvious fact that he has a shitty luck stat, with a base of 1 and a horrendous growth in it. Note, he doesn't actually have the worst luck in the series though, that's Noel's claim to fame. Seems accidentally spawning Satan is more unlucky than getting run over by horses. His personal skill also lowers the crit evade of himself and the crit evade of the enemies near him, with the flavor being his luck is so bad it spreads all the bad luck to the people around him. It's really not that complicated of a gameplay story integration, but it is a cute little bit of integration nevertheless. Okay, so last thing I want to talk about is Arthur's son Percy, and before I get into it, we have to accept that what Arthur does as a parent is shitty. In Fates, there is literally like an alternate dimension that people can walk into, where time flows slower than time outside of it. It's like the hyperbolic time chamber, basically. And every character in the game that can have a child decides to throw their baby into this fucked up time space and abandon them as they grow up so that they can be safe. You have to accept that every single character in Fates, from Corin to Fuga, is a shitty parent. That's just gonna be in the back of your head, and you just gotta deal with it. The innate Fates shitty parenting aside, Arthur's relationship with his son is probably the best parent-child relationship in all of Fates. Percy idolizes his dad. He's incredibly proud of Arthur's perseverance and hard work, overcoming the constant amount of obstacles thrown in his way. And in turn, Arthur is proud of his son for being such a do-gooder and just young lad, affectionately calling him his little sidekick. The two are very adorable, and it speaks to Arthur's strength, likable simplicity. There isn't any kind of deep trauma, other than the pocket dimension thing, it's just a loving family. I think I've made the point clear about Arthur now. He's a silly little guy who does silly little things, and I like to laugh at him. But at the core of that, even without the gimmick or the humor, he's still a really likable character, with a strong core of values that make him easy to root for. Please, try giving Arthur's supports a chance. They're all pretty funny and can be pretty heartwarming at times as well. Just because he's a gimmick doesn't mean he's bad. If anything, his gimmick is being a cool dude. And personally, I think that's all you need. Thank you all for making it to the end of another character analysis video. The year's almost over, and looking back, year 3 has had some really good videos and I'm quite proud of them. As always, thanks to my buddy the Green Brigand for looking over the script and just telling me, hey, good job. Love you a lot, and thanks for your continued support. If you enjoyed the video, consider joining the Discord. We have a lot of fun there, I post in there fairly frequently, and everyone there seems to have a pretty good time. Link in the description. Please, like the video, comment on the video, ring the bell for notifications, consider joining the Patreon, and you know what? Don't let the naysayers bring you down. Blare your Christmas music. It's November and it is allowed. Don't let anyone shame you. Until next time.